Welcome to the Divorce Survival Guide podcast, where we have open and honest conversations about co-parenting, separation, divorce, and the hardest question of all, should you stay or should you go? I'm Kate Anthony, your divorce survival guide, and I'm here to help you navigate some of the roughest waters you've ever swum in and answer some of your toughest questions. I've been to hell and back, and now it's my mission in life to help you get to the other side of this process with your sanity and your heart intact.
Hey everyone, welcome back. So, do you feel like you spend your life threatening your kids, sort of vacillating between being punitive and threatening punishments and timeouts, or, and then just wanting to connect with them, and you just feel like maybe you're doing parenting all wrong? I totally get it. Me too. Anyway, my guest today is Michelle Kenney, and she is a parenting coach. She's the owner of Peace and Parenting, and she has a new book out called Unpunished. And I will tell you that I learned a lot from this conversation because, I still struggle so much with all of this, and my kid is almost 18. So Michelle she's the mother of two girls, as well as a former teacher and counselor turned certified parenting instructor. And after years of consequences, bribes, and star charts, sound familiar, she finally reshaped the relationship she shares with her daughters and credits peaceful parenting for changing her life. Michelle considers herself a recovering yeller, perfectionist, and control freak who has found a more calm and connected way to parent. Using the ideas of brain science as her guide and working on childhood hurts as her deeper work, she helps other parents do what she has been able to do for herself over the last decade. Like I said, I learned a lot from this episode. So, without further ado, I'm just going to bring you my episode with the amazing Michelle Kenney. Michelle, thank you so much for coming back on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, it's been a minute, but you have a new book out. This is so exciting.
I have my first book out, which I'm really excited about. And it's a journey writing a book. So once it came out, I was like, yes, I'm done.
I'm done. Now I have to promote it.
Yes, now I have to promote it. But I love promoting it because it is, what I like most about it, it's brief. It's short. And so you can see in the camera, but it's short. And I think us parents need that.
We do. Some of my favorite books are the ones that get straight to the point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My book is not going to be short, but
that's okay.
Sorry, everybody. I have a hard time being brief.
Yeah.
But so tell us about the book. What's the title of the book is Unpunished, How to Let Go of Punishments and Find Your Parenting Peace.
Yeah. It's just like, how do you actually parent without using threats and bribes and consequences and yelling and all the things that we were likely parented with and that society says you should parent with? How do you go about just not doing that? And can you actually raise a great kid? And you can.
Thank you. I mean, this is 95% of the parenting arguments that I continue to have with my ex-husband.
Yeah.
So, how do you do this? Like, how do you get a kid to do the things that, quote, you want them to do, but that are, presumably good for them?
Right.
Without consequences or yelling or...
Yeah. I mean, I think those things are actually what make many kids push back even more.
Yeah.
So whereas you
Weird.
think, oh, I'll just threaten them to do this, or I'll just bribe them to do that, or I'll just incentivize them to, take out the garbage or whatever it is, that in the long run, that for many kids, for a sector of strong-willed kids especially, will actually make them push back more. So where you think you're using this thing to get something done, you're actually creating, like, they might take out the garbage because they want to go out tonight. But then later when you ask them to do X, Y, or Z, are they going to say no because they harbor a little bit of resentment? And then do you have to threaten them or bribe them again to get them to do the thing? And now are you in this circle of the only way I can get my child to do something is by using one of these manipulative ideas?
Yes, the answer is yes, you are.
So then first and foremost, you have to get rid of those manipulative ideas, those, conventional parenting ideologies. You have to just completely extract them. And then you feel lost. You're like, but wait, how do I get my kid to do their homework if I can't tell them that they can't go out and play until they do?
Right. How do you?
Connection. Relationship. So relationship and connection, if your kid feels good about the relationship that they share with you, much like if you are at a job and if you feel great about the relationship that you share with your boss, you have a good connection, you have great communication, you have someone who respects you, who leads with love, who leads with, thoughtfulness, you want to follow that person.
Yeah.
But if you have a boss that leads with, complete dictatorship, with, manipulation, with control, you're like, no, not, I don't want to perform for this person.
It's a bit of a divergence from because I said so, right?
Yeah.
And it also takes a lot more energy.
Yeah.
I mean, well, actually, maybe I should rephrase that, because I think it takes more energy to argue and fight and struggle, right, in the long term. Because Lord knows how much energy I've spent in those battles of will with my very strong-willed, very intelligent kid over the years, right? It's exhausting. It's actually more exhausting.
I think it is more exhausting. The problem is that we grew up in homes where it was because I said so. And so when we come to parenting, in the back of our head, we're thinking, no, because I said so. You have to just do it. And so we are almost fighting ourselves half the time, so I think that becomes the harder work, is that you're fighting your own pedagogy, your own ingrained ideology. And that can be exhausting because you're constantly fighting yourself to do a different thing that you don't really know how to do.
Yeah. And when you're trying to get your kid to do something that you're already questioning, with a rationale that you're already questioning and you're you're already like, I don't think I believe this. Why am I saying this? Then you're less likely to get compliance.
Yeah. And I think what you're really looking for is mutual cooperation.
Right.
You want your kid to cooperate with you because they want to, because they desire to somehow care about what you think, or care to please you, or care to be on your good side, or care to, also be in a relationship where they're being reciprocal, where you're doing for them and they're doing for you.
Right. Yes. And when I said compliance, I think that was both the wrong word, but also the right word to
totally
illustrating what's happening, right? It's like, do you want compliance or do you want cooperation and relationship? Right.
Yeah. And, we were expected to be compliant.
Yes. So, because you are in this situation as well, how does this work when you're co-parenting with somebody in a different household? So, or even in the same household, right? But you have very different parenting styles, but especially in divorce.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right, though. You see it everywhere. I have many connected parents whose partner doesn't do it. I have many connected divorced parents whose partner doesn't do it. So you find yourself in this quandary sometimes either way.
Right.
But I mean, it depends on the relationship that you have with your ex. And I guess that's for all things, right? And when we have when we have strained relationships, then it becomes much harder. I try not to hit it over my ex's head. I try not to tell him you're doing this wrong. You have to do it this way. This is right. Here's what the brain science says. Here's what the studies say. I know best, et cetera, et cetera. I try to lead by example and say, and when I have hard times, I try to really tell my ex, like, I had a really hard time with Esme. This happened. X, Y, and Z happened. And I tried to be empathic with her. I knew I should have been empathic. I try to really tell him when I mess up and tell him what I should have done. I knew I should have just listened to her feelings, but I couldn't, Chris. I just couldn't do it. And I got mad at her and I got upset. And I try to illustrate when I mess up to him and kind of tell him what I thought I should have done, maybe as a teaching place to teach him what he should have done.
How does he respond to that?
He empathizes with me, which is incredible. He's good with it.
Yeah.
And I think over time it has worked. It's not the quick fix, right? It's not that I'm going to illustrate one thing for him and he's going to come to an epiphany.
Right. Right. I mean, mine, I think that mine, not that I've tried that approach with him, but I mean, generally speaking, he is very grounded in consequences, in my estimation. I don't think he would say this, but it's about power and dominance with him. Yeah. So in a sense, I do feel like there's a lot of counter-parenting happening. And frankly, I am perfectly fine to counter-parent dominance.
Yes.
Like I have no problem with that.
Totally. And the thing is it all comes out in the wash. And I have plenty of clients who are single moms who have narcissistic exes, who have insane divorce stories, who have all kinds of things going on. And when we work deeply on the relationship that they share with their kids, they're golden because their kids see the difference and want to deeply be with them even more. And so I said, that is your biggest ammunition against this whole dominant parenting, right? Is to lead the counter side of it and have your child deeply understand that. And you get to have the bonded relationship.
Yep. And, I will say, and I think I've shared this on the podcast before, that, my son now lives with me full time.
Yeah. Both my girls live with me full time. Hadn't have for years. Not that my ex is lovely. He just cannot emotionally support them like I can.
Right. Sure.
And he's there and he drives and he hangs out and he comes for dinner and we've got a great relationship, whatever. He's just not able to give them the emotional support that they're used to getting with me.
Right.
He doesn't, he's not dominant. He's not mean. He's just not able to hold space.
I think, one of the things that arguments that we had in the past was, my ex would say to me, and I know that I have a lot of listeners who probably have similar experiences where my ex would say to me, we need to present a unified front. We need to get on the same page. But what I think he really meant was that I needed to align and unify with him.
Totally.
And I got to tell you, it took me probably 10 years before I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I actually don't need to unify with something I so deeply disagree with.
Yeah. And a lot of parents will say to me too, like, don't we have to be on the same page? And I'm like, no, actually, you don't have to be on the same page. And sometimes you just aren't. And that's okay. The kids figure it out. They figure it out. They understand it when push comes to shove. They do really feel, and they'll probably have relationships with their dads or moms or whoever's on the other end, but it won't be like the one you have if you really lead with connection.
Yeah. So how do you do that? Like, what does it mean to lead with connection?
So there's a bunch of facets to connection. And I think that's why I wrote the book and I titled it Unpunished because I think the number one thing you have to do is get rid of the punishments.
Stop punishing your kids.
Yeah, because that really eats and erodes connection and relationship because it harbors resentment and kids feel manipulated and then they have a, bad taste in their mouth for you.
Mm-hmm.
And either you have the compliant kid who totally complies and they'll do whatever you say, but at the same time, they're only doing it to the detriment of themselves. Or you have the kid who's the, very strong-willed, who's going to fight you tooth and nail on everything. But either way, mine too. I have one of each. Either way, they're not doing it because they want to. Mm-hmm. They're not cooperating because they want to. So that's number one. Number two is, can you lead with empathy?
Right.
Can you have boundaries and limits? And can you follow them up with empathy and understanding as opposed to following them up with punishments?
So can you give an example of what that looks like?
Yeah. So you've got the 8-year-old kid who's obsessed with the iPad, right? Every 8-year-old kid is obsessed with the iPad. Mm-hmm. And you say that the rule in the house is at 6:00, we're going to turn the iPad off and we're going to have dinner time. And we're not going to turn the iPad back on until tomorrow. That's my rule. And that's my limit. And so when you come to the child and say, guess what, honey, we got to turn the iPad off. And they have an ever loving upset like you've never seen before. Their head is spinning around like you have tried to kill them. They're freaking out. Our initial reaction is to, oh, no, I'm shutting this down. This can't happen. They cannot have their feelings around it. We have to make it stop. We have to flip that script and we have to say, I understand. I know you're mad. I know you don't want to turn the iPad off, but we're turning it off and we're all done. And you listen empathically to the huge tantrum that ensues until it's over. And that is one of the basic understandings. I know.
So I have a kid who, whenever I would say to him, I would do that, right? I did all of the, nonviolent communication parenting classes. And so I would do that. Like when he was like 1, I did all those classes, right? And I was like, and I would be like, I know you don't want to turn the iPad off. And he'd go, yeah, so don't make me. Yeah. So I don't. And I'd go, no, and so anytime I would express empathy, it would be almost like he would hear it as, so you agree.
Yeah.
And it would almost escalate the tantrum.
Yeah. I hear this all the time. Almost every single day I hear this. And it's a good thing. Because the reason in which the child cannot turn off the iPad is because they're not doing well. I mean, they're fine, right? But emotionally, they have some sort of dysregulation happening. They're disconnected. Mm-hmm. So when you set the limit on a child who's regulated, they will likely adhere to the limit. That's why you get the child who sometimes they're fine when you turn it off and sometimes they're not. Mm-hmm. When you set the limit with a kid who's not doing that well, they have an emotional upset that's below the surface. And so when you set the limit, it allows them a space to get that emotionality out. It allows them to offload their feelings. Mm-hmm. So your empathy and your kindness and your ability to hold space really deeply brings out the feelings. So we don't want to shy away from that. We want to go head first into it and almost, I don't want to say make them angry, but keep reiterating the limit and keep pulling out those feelings and allow them to get as mad as they need to be.
And I think also in that there's also consistency, right? Because the one time, I know for my kid, like the one time that you don't hold your boundary, now all bets are off.
Yeah, you can't.
Right.
Yeah, you can't go back on your boundaries, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You have to kind of stick to them once they're there.
Because mine is a classic, like he will rationalize and talk me out of it since he was 2. Like rationalizing, talking me out of, yeah, but why does that have to happen? Because I don't think that that's right. Because then this and this and this and like, and it's just this whole like, he's highly intelligent.
That's dysregulation, right? They're just like it's just a different form of it. It's the reasoning, and I'm going to try, and they're trying to keep themselves out of their feelings, right? So if they can get into their logical brain, if they can move over from their limbic system to their prefrontal cortex, they can keep themselves from having big feelings. And if they're scared of their big feelings, they might try to go to rationale to keep themselves trying to keep it down, trying to keep it tamped down. But when we keep reiterating the limit, I understand, but we're not going to have it. I get that, but we're going to then it'll eventually spin them out.
I wish I'd had this conversation with you 10 years ago. That's all right.
I mean,
we made it. And now a quick word from our sponsor. Wait, that's me. I know I have a lot of podcast episodes for you to get through, and it can be really, really overwhelming to try and figure out where to start or to comb through which ones might be appropriate for you, whether you're trying to decide whether to stay or go, or you're already on the other side of the divorce process. Like, how do you know what to listen to? I have solved the problem for you. All you have to do is go to kateanthony.com/playlist. Answer a few short questions, and I will send you a curated list of podcast episodes to best support you as you navigate these tricky waters. I'll also help you identify where you currently stand on this journey and what's ahead, with resources to help you move through this process with knowledge and grace. So all you need to do is go to kateanthony.com/playlist, answer a few short questions, and you will have your curated list of podcast episodes that will support you wherever you are in your journey. And now back to our show.
It's just an interesting way to think about feelings, really, is that all the behaviors are just telling you, this rigidity, whining, refusal, defiance, hitting, biting, kick, anything is telling you something. This kid needs help. They need to get it out.
Yes. And, when you're, I think divorced or divorcing, or even co-parenting with somebody who, has different ways of parenting than you do, and or maybe a little bit abusive to the children, or at least dominant, or, leading with power and control, we're the ones who get the brunt of it, right? Because all of that stuff that's been under the surface now just bubbles up with us because we're safe.
That is exactly right. And I mean, you probably feel it in your own house, probably talk to people all the time. It's
all the time.
We end up being the safe place, and it runs us ragged because we don't have that counterparent to help us take some of the brunt.
Right.
And so to take that on for 2 or 3 or 4 kids, it's enough to put you in the insane asylum.
Yeah. I mean, I took it for 1, and I I had my moments,
Yeah. I mean, it's not easy being an emotional support animal for somebody else.
No, it's really not. It's really not. So, okay. So how else do we connect with our kids?
Another good way to connect would be to just have one-on-one time. And a lot of people will say, oh, I'm always with my kids. We hang out all the time. I drive them to sports. The one-on-one time, it looks differently in connective parenting in that, you really want to have them choose the activity. You really want to give them control. You really want to make sure that they are having a place in their life where they can boss you around, where they can tell you what to do. And that's what special time becomes, is this 20-minute one-on-one time every single day.
Every day.
Every day with every kid.
It's a lot. That's like a full-time job.
It is, but it's like, if you can't spend 20 minutes alone with your child, you got to reevaluate your schedule. You really do. And people will say, well, yeah, we have too many activities. We have this and that. And I'm like, well,
then have fewer activities.
Yeah, connection's vital. It is as vital as water. You really need to have it every day with a kid. They need to feel connected to you so you can have a smooth household.
Yeah. Yeah. I do notice that with my son. He's almost 18. He's graduating. Like, there is, he's always off with his friends. He's doing this, he's doing that. But, yesterday I went into his bedroom and I sat down on his bed and I was like, hi, I just want to spend time with you. Like, I miss you. I don't know what's going on. And we just sat and, shot the shit. It wasn't anything profound. It wasn't like deep and meaningful. It wasn't about feelings. I mean, it was actually about my feelings about him going away, about him, growing up and graduating. And I was like, I'm having all these like really weird emotions. It's so strange. Like, I don't even know what's going on with me, but I'm so proud of you and all that stuff like that. I wasn't making it weird for him. But I was just sharing my feelings, and then it just opened up a really great conversation. And I do notice that the more, and it's really easy not to, right? It's really easy when they're teenagers and they're doing their own thing and they don't want to talk to you because like, oh, mom, it's really easy. Like we want to respect their time and space, but also we have to, when I make those moments, I notice that those moments beget more moments.
That's right. That's what I think too. I have a 17 and a half year old too, and a 14 and a half year old. And when I pour deeply into my oldest, especially, I see it instantly that she feels better. And she'll say, she'll call and say, do you want to have dinner with me tonight? Do you want to hang out with me? Do you want to go hiking? And whenever I get that bid, because we're so used to doing special time, it's been every day for 13 years.
Right.
And so now she asks me for it.
Oh, wow.
Because I think she knows it's just been part of our thing and she knows she needs it and she's busy and I'm busy. So it's like, if we're both asking and trying to get in there, it's just been part of our ethos now.
That's really sweet. That's really nice.
It really is so sweet. And I feel so lucky that I just stuck to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do notice even like in the driving, right? Like, because now he's driving, right? And so, I'm in the car we're in the car together a lot now. And, when he was little, that was the time that he would really open up and talk. Right. And so the car has always been, it's like the car. And then when he was little at night, as soon as the light turned off.
Of course.
Right. As soon as the light turned off, like all of this stuff.
Oh, wait, I have something to say. Yeah.
Yeah. But then I would, he'd be like, Mommy, stay with me till I fall asleep. And the conversations we would have in the dark were the most, connected and open, because when you're not like forcing them to stare at you in the face, like they're in the backseat of the car or they're in the dark, right? They just sort of.
Yeah. And I mean, I think part of parenting becomes for many of us task oriented, right? Did we do our homework? Did I get you to activities? Did you eat a good meal? Did you brush your teeth? Did you take a shower? And then, in those moments where there's no task to do, like the car or right before bed.
No, right?
Then it becomes like this place. And it's like, if all our interactions are tasks, then what are we forming in our relationship?
Becomes transactional, right?
Yeah, it really does. And I don't think it's no fault of us parents because we live in a society that doesn't value connection. It values getting things done.
So speaking of getting things done, right? Because this can feel like, oh my God, it's another thing I have to do.
Yes.
Right. And like, I'm doing it wrong and oh, fuck. And, all of those things. And so how do we take care of ourselves in the midst of like more things to do or I don't know, like it almost sounds like, like connecting with your kid really sounds like it should be actually slowing down, right? And actually providing space. But for some people, I can imagine like, you've got a single mom who's working her ass off. She's working 2-3 jobs, just trying to pay the bills. And it feels like it's a lot.
Yeah. I'll just say, like, I started out my parenting journey yelling, screaming, timeouting, threats, bribes, and all the things. At some point, I got so frustrated with myself and felt like I was just this yelling, screaming monster that I wanted to change. And when I made that change, I decided I was going to let go of some things because I wanted to recalibrate our life. And so it was like, I'm not making organic meals every night anymore. I'm not going to worry about that for a while. I'm going to, we're eating soup and sandwiches. We're ordering pizza. We're doing what's easy so that I can make time to connect with my kids. And when I recalibrated just for a little bit, like 2 or 3 months, when I started to say, you know what, the dishes can pile up, the laundry can wait, the things that are not essential can wait for a minute. I found once I really dove into connection that I ended up having more time because we weren't struggling so much. We weren't fighting. There wasn't these huge upsets that were taking us down. And so long term, I ended up getting more time, but you're right. I really had to like cut out a bunch of things at the beginning because we couldn't fit it in.
Yeah.
Bedtime was taking 2 hours.
Yikes. Yeah.
Because it was like a threat and a bribe and a timeout and a yelling and screaming, and nobody would brush their teeth. And, I was shutting the door on kids who were crying and yelling, screaming and, having a hard time. And once I started doing special time, I was like, oh, everyone went to bed. That was easy because they felt better. So I gained an hour and a half every night.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was good. And then I could go back to my organic meals. I could go back to working all the time. I could go back to all the things I needed to do.
Mm-hmm. And then how do you fit in your personal self-care into all of that? I mean, not fighting with your kids is actually an enormous exercise in self-care, by the way.
That's what I would say, is that connection gives you more self-care because you can actually breathe and you feel good and you're not yelling and screaming anymore. But right. I mean, I need to work on it all the time. I'm not good at it at all.
Yeah.
I'll work myself to the bone. I'll lock myself in my office. I'll do all kinds of things I know I shouldn't. And I don't know how I do the self-care. I have a listening partner who also does this parenting method. She's also a coach. And so we spend time on the phone, really like downloading, I hate my ex. I can't take it. He didn't, he wasn't there helping me. I'm taking on all the feelings. Like I get to really have my tantrums with her. Been really helpful. Sleep for me is like a big one. I need my sleep and I know that. And I've spent many years not doing it right. And I've just recently said 10:30 is it, Michelle. Like you cannot watch beef all night.
All night. No. You cannot.
10:30, my dear, is it.
That's it. Yep. I'm the same.
That is it.
9 is my cutoff. I mean, sometimes I'll watch till 9:30, but that's it. I've learned the hard way. I'm old. I've learned the hard way. I know what I need to do, and it is sleep and having my tantrums. Those are the two things I make sure I do all the time. I love that you have a tantrum partner. I think that's really great. I did that the other night. I'm a classic isolator when I'm not when I'm not doing well, I completely isolate. And my best friend knows me well enough that he knows that if I go silent, something's up. So he calls me and he's like, what's going on? And I'm like, and the other night I texted him and I was like, I need to go to the spa. So we meet at We Spa, which is, for those who don't know, those outside of LA, we have this amazing Korean spa. It's like a factory, but it's, it has a great co-ed area. So I went in, I did my soaks and I got a scrub where, pounds of dead skin. They take off all of your skin. And then I am so soft right now.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I am not soft. I need that.
It's unbelievable. I looked down at the table and I was like, oh my God.
And it's like brown and gross and dirty. And you're like, that's not my skin, is it?
Me? Gross.
Looks like it has pieces of dirt in it.
I know. So anyway, but then we just met in the co-ed area. You're lying on this heated floor on these mats with blankets. And we're cuddled up together. And I was just vomiting. And then I just curled up in in a ball in his arms. And then I was like, I'm all better now.
Well, that's it. And I think that's so lovely. That's what our children feel after they have those big tantrums.
Totally.
So this is why, in our parenting ideology, connected parenting, we do this partnership because it strengthens the way in which we can listen to our kids.
Yeah.
Because we're modeling it and we're doing it. And so if you work with me or join any of my programs, I team you up with someone. So my one-on-one clients, I matchmake them with somebody.
That's so nice.
Yeah. And then they have that support ongoing.
It's such a great thing.
It is.
Especially with parenting, because it's different. My best friend is a gay man who does not have children. I mean, he's my son's godfather. He knows him intimately, but he doesn't have that. He doesn't have that shared parenting experience.
Yeah. And there's something about it that is different, that unless you're a parent, you might not completely, I'm sure he knows, but he doesn't know
Oh, yeah.
completely what it feels like. You need another parent to kind of really say, I hear you. I see you. I've been there.
And, and he does know me. He's known me for almost, 35 years. So he's right. But yeah. But just having that person, right? Just having somebody.
Yeah.
We have a Thursday tantrum thread in my local moms group.
Mm-hmm.
We have a really great, small, like insular, local moms group. And it's really like, it was born out of one of the bigger ones that then got so big and it became a little bit untenable and then unsafe, what used to be like the safest place on the internet. And so we started, a couple of the moms started a new one that was a little smaller. That too is just like, it's all just loving moms who are like, I see you. I love you. We've got you.
Yeah. And it's, if you're taking on this emotionality of all your kids and maybe even your ex or your divorce, if you're taking on all the emotion of all these things, you need a place.
You do need a place. Yeah. That's the self-care piece. Having a place. All right. So you're connecting. You are finding these in other forms, other ways of connecting, finding these individual times
there's
every day.
Empathy play is another big one, like really trying to be playful with your kids and trying to come to off-track behaviors with play as opposed to coming with, punishment or a consequence. We can come with play like, oh, little boys who want to hit or bite or kick their brother or sister are going to have 100 million kisses from their mama. And so you get that physical limit with the kid and you kiss them and you hug them and you connect with them in those moments where they're really off track. We use that as a really good, you can use it with teenagers too. I'll be to my oldest, I'll be like, oh, little girls who are sassy to their mom must need hugs, I guess. Isn't that what you wanted? Like, no, I don't want a hug. I'm like, are you sure you don't want a hug? I think you do. You might need one. You look like you need a hug. She's like, don't touch me. Okay, I won't touch you, but I'm waiting right over here for when you're ready. And I just keep at her with the playful connection and eventually she'll succumb to it. And I can turn a real snarky situation into something that is chill.
Oh, that's really great. I'm going to need some more of those. I'm going to need some more snarky teenage tips, please.
Oh yeah. Just tell them you're going to kiss and hug them and they'll lose it. And then you just be like, are you sure? Come on, please. Can I just have a pinky hug then? Can I just touch your shoulder? What about a butterfly kiss? Oh, I just keep going.
Oh.
I don't stop. I don't let them off the hook.
My son will be like, Mom, stop.
They get so mad. They'll hug you.
That's funny. I did that yesterday with my son when we were having that time on his bed and we were having this conversation and I said, I was being very honest and I wasn't trying to put this on him or sort of, parentify him. Like I was like, it's really hard for me. Like I'm alone. I don't have a partner and you're kind of growing up and moving on. And I'm trying to figure out like who I am next and what, Yeah. And he said, Mom, this is kind of weird, but like, do you like when you're your age, like, do you miss like sex? And I was like, I loved it. I was like, this is awesome. And I was like, as a menopausal woman, I can tell you that no, I do not miss sex. I don't give a fuck if I ever have sex again. And I said, but he goes, but do you miss cuddling? And I said, yes. Yeah. I desperately miss cuddling. I was like, that's why I'm always trying to get you to hug me because like, I want to cuddle and he's never been a hugger, never been a cuddler, like never, except he is with his girlfriend now. And I'm like, asshole.
Yeah.
But then I was like, that's why I'm always trying to get you to hug me because, it feels good. Like,
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, okay. And then he turned around and he gave me a
That's so like, sweet.
He's like, I get it.
Virginia Sater, she's an older psychologist. I don't think she's even alive anymore, but she did a study on the hug study. And she said you need 12 hugs a day to promote your relationship with somebody. You need 8 hugs a day just to maintain it.
Like how?
I don't know. That's what sometimes I'll give my parents the assignment to hug their kids as many times as they can in one day. and to see they can you get to 8? Can you just get to 8?
No.
I know. And I try to just get to, some days I'll just challenge myself to get to 6 with my teenagers.
Oh my God. If I can get 1, I'm lucky.
I mean,
my kid is also the one that like in 2nd grade, I dropped him off to school and I opened my arms for our daily like goodbye hug. And he was like, And I was like, it's 2nd grade. I'm not ready for you to not do, like, wait a minute.
He is like, I'm done. I'm
like,
fine.
I'm done. I've got this.
That's good. He showed good resilience, right? He's ready. He's ready to mingle.
I was not ready.
I know. We're never ready. And now this is going to be a big step for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's staying here. He's not going to college yet. So he's here.
Okay, good. So we like that.
Yes, I do like that.
My daughter is like applying everywhere that is not here. Mm-hmm.
He will eventually. I hope he does eventually. He's just not ready yet. Like he's got really severe ADHD. Like he's just not ready. And I'm like, good, then don't.
Good. No, it's so smart. I mean, 18 is very young to go off on your own, I think.
Yeah. And he's not yet 18. Like he's young for his year too. Yeah. Like he's young for his grade. So anyway. Yeah. Thank you. So, okay. Anything else? Any other tips that you want to give us from this book before we tell everyone to go and order it?
The book is, part is memoir, like some of my struggles, the things that I really had a hard time with early on in parenting.
Okay.
And so I think those are helpful because we often think we're alone in this struggle and that nobody else, and that these parenting experts, they know how to do everything. They were born,
Yeah, like you were born in a ship we don't have. It's so good to hear you say how awful it was for you in the beginning, because we can make up that you just have this gentle demeanor,
No,
and that
I don't. And I still have a hard time. I mean, I tell my clients all the time, like I yelled at Esme the other day. I couldn't keep my cool. I was not regulated. I was not taking care of myself. And I lost it on her, and it was totally my fault. And that still will happen no matter who you are or what you're doing. And so I think that's why this book is good, is it helps you feel like, oh, this person too is struggling, but she made change.
Yes.
And I can do that too. I can make change in my life. I can do it differently. I can try something new. And I'm just a regular person like everyone else. And I didn't know that you could parent this way, but you can. And it feels good.
Amazing. This is so great. So where can everyone find the book?
So you can find it in 2 places. You can go on unpunishedbook.com and I will ship it to you if you're international, especially because you can't get it on Amazon internationally. If you want to, you can get it also on Amazon. It's there too. So you can get it in 2 spots.
So the book is Unpunished, unpunishedbook.com.
You got it.
Awesome. And I'm sure there are links on your, also on your Instagram and everywhere else.
Yep, there's links on my Instagram. I did a couple of podcasts. I just read from the book. So you can find those unpunished podcasts. Like I read the intro and I read part of chapter 1. So you can get like a little taste of it. It's also on Audible.
Oh, good.
So you can get it there too.
Awesome. Yeah. Michelle, thank you so much for coming on and talking about this. It's so inspiring. I've actually learned a few things today that I'm going to take into my life.
Good. I'm glad. Thank you for having me. I so appreciate it. And thank you for doing all your important work in the divorce, arena. We all need it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And back at you in the parenting arena. Boy, do we need it.
Oh, I know.
Thanks, love.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Divorce Survival Guide podcast. If you like what you hear, head on over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in and leave me a review. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram at the Divorce Survival Guide. I'll see you next time, and until then, remember, you, my love, deserve to be happy.